Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Happy Sunday to you guys. I'm sorry I joined in some minutes late. I'm starting the session some minutes late. Please, if you can hear me, say hello in the comments. Yeah. Princess is already saying hello. Mr. Roland, my person. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, if you can hear me, please say hello. Hello, 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 hello. I wish I can serve everybody lunch and dinner. It's not easy. On Sundays, it's usually very, very, very crazy for me. So I try to prepare for myself for the week. So it just takes a lot of my time. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Thank you, Mr. Mosumola Defila. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Aino. Thank you, Menaxi. Thank you, Uduak. Thank you, George. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Fumilola. Thank you, Mr. Roland again. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Special Education. Thank you, Zaril Diaz. Thank you so much. Thank you, Samuel. Anybody, if I miss your name, please forgive me. Thank you, Princess. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Bamiwo. Okay, so I won't waste too much time because I didn't start early for me to do all this paparazzi that I'm doing. So I won't waste too much time. I'll just go ahead and give a brief summary of today's discussion, which was published about caregiver jobs. I'll give a summary on Canada caregiver jobs. And the summary I'm going to give, I'll also talk about my observations and my opinions. And after that, maybe like 10 minutes. And then after that, I'll start taking your questions. Okay, so, caregiver jobs in Canada, at some years ago, it was the easiest job to get. Some years ago, like maybe 5, 6 years ago, it was the easiest job to get. I mean, anybody that came into Canada at the time, if they are finding it difficult to get into their line of career, the caregiver is just you doing background check, doing a child abuse check, doing adult abuse check, and then you get a job. They teach you what to do. So it was very easy to get some years back. And because of that, the government of Canada did put a limitation on processing LMIAs for that particular type of job. So there was a limitation on processing LMIAs for caregiver jobs, especially for people coming out from outside Canada. People who try to get caregiver jobs from outside Canada tried to come in. There was a refusal to process in place, a refusal to process policy in place. That means if the employer applied for LMIA for that kind of job, the person will not be able to get the job offer except Quebec. It's only Quebec that was allowed to, bring in people under the caregiver job. I'm not talking about the caregiver pathway. I'm talking about caregiver job. So why I'm bringing this topic is because there are a lot of people who are qualified, right? But the possibility of them applying for PR when that March 31 portal opens up, the chances are slim. So you now have to look for alternative options, especially if you have an employer that is willing to hire you. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So some years ago, it was very easy to get those jobs. And because of that, the government now put those restrictions in place such that if, for instance, I have need for a caregiver, whether a child caregiver or home support worker, I cannot hire somebody from outside Canada to come and do that job with LMIA because there's a refusal to process policy concerning the caregiver job. And that refusal to process policy is still in place. It's only those who are already in Canada. Let's say you came into Canada as a visitor, right? And you got a job offer as maybe a housekeeper. And then the person now wants you to do a caregiver job. You can now convert. That means because you already have an existing work permit to work as a housekeeper, you can now convert that housekeeper job offer to caregiver, and then you can then apply for LMA for that. So it's only people who were in Canada that could do that or that could get LMIAs for such jobs. And the only way for people to come in is through the caregiver pathway or through the, what do you call it now? The pilot programs that they establish. Pilot programs like RNIP, as at then, and then the Atlantic Immigration Program. Those were the only ways people could come in to do caregiver jobs. So now that they've announced this new pathway, there are a lot of people who will want to take advantage of it. And most of the questions a lot of people have been asking is, it's difficult to get caregiver jobs. How do we go about it? And I'll give reasons why it is difficult to get caregiver jobs. I'm not coming to tell you that it is easy, oh, blah, 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 blah. No, I'll tell you the reality on ground, and I'll tell you why it is difficult to get caregiver jobs from outside Canada. It's not as if you cannot get it. People get caregiver jobs. I will tell you people who are getting caregiver jobs and the people that cannot get caregiver jobs. I've even done this video before. I did it 2 years ago. Now, number one, there is a group of people who have established themselves very well in the caregiver industry. They are from the Philippines. That's the Filipinos. They've established themselves very well in the caregiving industry, such that if you go to a care home now and say you want to hire a caregiver from, let's say, another country, maybe Jamaica, right? And if the caregiver does not have experience, maybe in countries like USA, UK, South Africa, I'm saying South Africa, no, where USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand, if the caregiver does not have experience in those countries, it is difficult to get such jobs. So the Filipinos have dominated this industry such that most of the care homes, I would say most, even all the care homes, they know them as good caregivers. Whether it's child care, whether it's adult care, whether it's elderly care, whether it's care for somebody with medical needs, the Filipinos have carved a name for themselves. And because they've carved a name for themselves, they network in such a way that when one person gets a caregiver job, they're always asking for reference from that person, and that person is able to bring another person into the caregiver industry. That's how it is been. So for those of us from Africa and other countries, it is difficult to actually penetrate an industry that is already being dominated by a group of people. That does not mean you should be discouraged about it. That you shouldn't be discouraged. But because Canada is now open to diversity, like they've seen that it's not good for one particular country to dominate a particular industry. They want more diverse people. That's why most of the employers are looking at it critically. But if you ask me, the Filipinos, they have a very strong hold in terms of getting caregiver jobs. And most of the agencies that actually hire caregivers from outside Canada to come and work, they are majorly owned by Filipinos. Okay, so that being said, that is number one issue around getting caregiver jobs, because it is dominated by one group of people, and they are the Filipinos. They dominate this industry. We cannot, we have to give it to them. Number two is that most of the people, that's individuals who want to hire caregivers, they have trust issues, especially for those who are outside Canada. And if you don't have somebody to network on your behalf to be able to convince them that you can do the job, then it's going to be difficult to get a caregiver job. Because caregiving is more like somebody coming into your house to come and work for you, and the person would know a lot of details about you, right? It's not just coming, provide care and go. No, they would need to know a lot of details about you. And those people, they have trust issues in just telling people or strangers, or giving a stranger a job to come and help them in their houses, or to come and provide support for them, especially for the home support worker category of workers, right? So because of this, it's difficult to land a caregiver job if you don't have somebody in Canada to help you network. If you don't have somebody in Canada to give recommendation on your behalf, it will be difficult to get such jobs. Then the third issue around this caregiving or getting a caregiving job is the what do you call it, the requirements around it. A lot of people who need caregivers, they like people who are already educated in caregiving. So if you don't have the education, you only have the experience, they will doubt if you can provide the kind of care they are looking for, right? So, I mean, if you want to come out and do child caregiver and you don't have any qualification in child caregiving, they will doubt if you can really provide child caregiving to their child. If you want to provide support work for those with medical needs or maybe disability and all of that, and you don't have any educational qualification in support, they will doubt if you can provide, if you can do the job. So because of that, I encourage people, in as much as you have the experience, to also get at least one or two qualifications in these areas. Get one or two qualifications to support your work experience, because that will be able to convince them. So I think that's number 3 reason I've given. The number 4 reason is communication. Now, you could pass all the hurdles of getting somebody, and if you cannot speak in the language that they understand, it will be difficult for the person to go ahead with you. I'll give an example. We have accents, and because of our accents, it's difficult for them to actually understand what we talk about and the way we say things. From where I come from in Nigeria, we call medication drugs. I can say, oh, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, I want to take drugs. But over here, they see drugs as a different term. They see drugs as people who are, as in taking drugs and are drug addicts, right? That's the way they interpret it. So you have to know the terms. If you cannot communicate in the terms of the particular job offer or job, then it will be difficult for you to get the job. For instance, if they're interviewing you and they're asking you questions, you need to know the terms that the Canadians use when it comes to caregiving or support work. If you don't know the terms they use and you're using your own terms based on your own experience from where you are, you will be shooting yourself in the foot. So if you're a support worker and you are able to land an interview with any of the home care companies, with any individual, use the terms. You have to go and search for the terms that is used in Canada. There are some global terms and there are some specific terms. Some global terms are okay, but specific terms specific to that particular career, you have to learn those terms, learn the Canadian terms, learn what they use, what they say, and speak in the language they understand, so that you can convince them that you can actually do the job and you know what you're doing. So a lot of people do not know these things. They just go, oh, okay, I'm succeeded in getting an interview. They go and in their mind, they are performing well. They are talking blah, blah, blah. And then after the interview, they don't hear back from the employer. And they'll be wondering what's going on. In most cases, it's because of the way you spoke, your accent, number 1, and 2, the terms that you used when communicating with the employer. Did you use the term of that particular occupation, or you used your own terms? Even words like schedule, right? In some countries they say schedule, some countries they call it schedule. So you have to know how they call these things. If they are saying schedule and Canada is saying schedule, you have to learn how Canada is calling these words so that you can speak in the words or speak in the language that they understand. Then in terms of accent, there's nothing we really can do about our accent, because I mean, you can't take away your individuality and your ancestry, especially if you were born in Nigeria, or you were born somewhere, or you were born in India. The only thing you can do, you can try to speak clearly. And I'll give one person as an example. I believe we know Chimamanda Adichie. So Chimamanda, I've not seen her speak in a language that shows she has changed her accent. She still maintains her accent, but she speaks clearly and she speaks fluently, right? She speaks well, such that anybody that listens to her understands her. She doesn't speak like they speak. She speaks the normal English. So I'm not saying you should change your accent, but speak in a way that they understand. And if you speak very well, they'll tell you. Canadian employers, right? They are kind of expressive in certain ways. If you speak well, they'll tell you, oh, you speak good English. Even if you went to school, even if you have a master's degree, they will tell you that you speak good English. They will tell you that because they've seen people who have master's degree, PhD degrees, not able to speak good English or communicate very well in the language they understand. And because communication is a key thing, especially for the fact that you're going to be providing caregiving, you will be providing care to someone. The people that will hire you, they are very, very concerned about how you will communicate to them and if you will understand them and if they will understand you. The key thing is if they will understand you and understand what you're saying. So you have to learn all these things, especially if you know you are already in the pipeline of getting a job. Okay, so that being said, I feel that it is good to know these issues so that you can know how you can position yourself. And I'm going to tell you how you can actually position yourself. Somebody was asking, what's the way out for we Nigerians? I'm going to tell you what the way out is, and so that you can plan and prepare yourself for against that. You plan very well so that you don't have issues when it comes to getting opportunities in this industry. Okay, so number one is networking. Networking is not easy per se because you are outside and these employers are inside. Now, how do you network? You network in various ways. You network by volunteering. There are volunteer organizations all around Canada. You don't need to be in Canada to volunteer. There are volunteer organizations. You can provide volunteer services virtually, right? You can provide your volunteer services virtually. And that is if you don't have anybody at all. If you have maybe a sister, a brother, a friend, a cousin in Canada that can help you talk to employers, fine. But if you don't have anybody, you have to do the work, the hard work of finding a way to network, and it starts with volunteering. So on all the provincial websites or all the provinces, they have volunteer organizations. Like for Manitoba, you have Volunteer Manitoba. For British Columbia, you have Volunteer British Columbia. For Toronto, you have Volunteer Toronto. For Ontario, Toronto is in Ontario anyway. For Ontario, you have Volunteer Ontario. So maybe you can just volunteer 1 hour or 2 hours in a week. Go to those websites if it's possible. It's just because of time that I don't have. I have a lot of commitments and some promises I've made that I've not been able to fulfill on this channel. So I don't want to add more promises. So it doesn't look like I'm not serious. Even though I would have said, okay, let me quickly do a list of the volunteer organizations that you can register with. You don't need to be, like I said, you don't need to be in Canada to volunteer. You can just register on their website. Look for caregiving organizations that have relationships with caregivers, right? There are advocacy organizations, policy organizations, and all of that have relationship with caregiving organizations. If you can get those organizations, just volunteer 1 or 2 hours providing a virtual service. You can provide a virtual service. You don't need to be present to provide that kind of service. So by the time you're volunteering, you're networking. You know, the person that will sign you up, that will give you task, you can relate with those persons. You can talk to those persons, and from there could be some form of connection that you can build on. When you build on those connections, you'll be able to talk about your values, talk about what you have, your experience, and all of that. And there's a possibility of them considering you. So that's number one. You volunteer, you network. By networking, you volunteer. The subcategory is volunteering for those who don't have people. For those who have people, talk to the people you have to help you call employers on your behalf, or you can also call the employers on your behalf as well. Call the employers yourself instead of asking people to call the employers on your behalf. I know that there are, what do you call it now? There are apps that you can use to call employers in Canada. It's just that I've not been able to get the ones that are actually working. The one I know that used to work before was Skype, but Skype is still working, but they no longer provide Canadian numbers, right? But there are apps that you can use to get Canadian numbers to call employers and talk to them. Okay, so my special brother has given me options. If you check the comments, Dingtone and Fungo apps. Thank you so much for making this suggestion. That's why I like you when you join this session, because you're always supporting me. Thank you so much. Okay, so you can use those apps to call those employers and talk to them, pitch your value to them. That's number one. Then number two is sorry, I'm a bit distracted. So number two way of, bypassing these issues is to become friends with the group of people that I said are already dominating in this industry. So if you have a friend that is a Filipino, just hold that friend tight, right? Because they have the connections, they know the people, they have that connections. So if you have a friend that is a Filipino, hold that friend tight, because within their community, they have the information about caregivers opportunities, employers that are looking for people. They have the information of referrals and all of that. I know that it's not easy to penetrate such communities, but it's better to be friends with them so that when there's an opportunity and you have somebody that is telling you, oh, there's this, there's that, you can tap into that opportunity and also be part of it. So you have to be friends with people who are already dominating in this industry. So if you partner with them and if you're friends with them, you can actually get more information about employers that are looking for caregivers, organizations that are looking for caregivers. Apart from you going to individual caregiver websites, right? You also have, what do you call it now? Recruiters. You have recruiters that their work is just to hire caregivers, and they are on LinkedIn. If you search for recruiters, caregiver recruiters on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see caregiver recruiters on LinkedIn. So for you to, if you don't want to do networking, if you don't want to partner with a Filipino or be friends with a Filipino, look for recruiters. There are recruiters whose job is just to look for caregivers, and they're on LinkedIn. That's their work. And there are recruiters that are on ground. So those recruiters on LinkedIn, they are partnered with recruiters on ground. That's what I mean, on ground. Partnered with recruiters who are in the Philippines or who are in different locations of the world looking for caregivers. So you have to look for those recruiters. If you get the contact of those recruiters, then it's possible to actually get a caregiving job. Then number 4 way of getting out of this situation and being able to get a job offer is getting your qualifications and getting your communications correctly. Like, you get the qualifications in those occupations as a caregiver. I mean, get certificates, get trainings, and talk about it. Social media is a new way of actually getting attention of employers, and I will tell you for a fact that most of these employers are mostly on social media, even looking for people to employ. And if you go to most of these employers' websites, they have Facebook, Instagram, and the popular ones are actually Facebook and Instagram. I don't want to mention Twitter and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, yes, you have the recruiters on LinkedIn, but Facebook, yeah, thank you, Emmanuel, for supporting me on that. Thank you so much on that. Okay, I'll put his comment on the screen so that you can see it. In one of the college in Calgary, working with Filipinos, you are right, they have the connections. Yes, they have the strongest connections because that is their area and they have all the people there. Okay, so back to what I was saying. Most of these employers, they are very active on Facebook. Very, very active on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram, yes, but Facebook is where you can get them. They are on Facebook, and their home care, home care pages are on Facebook. And even on that Facebook, you will see their phone number, you will see their email. On Facebook, they advertise their jobs. They advertise the jobs that are available on Facebook. So sometimes, if you're not getting any information on their website, go to their Facebook page or go to their Instagram page. You will see the latest information there. And you can communicate with them on Facebook. You can be their friends on Facebook. You can talk to them on Facebook. Okay, so now that brings me to the next question. How do you use your social media, especially for you who are looking for something? Is your social media talking about your job, or your social media is just there? I know not everybody likes to put themselves out. That's the truth. Not everybody likes to be out there. Some people just want to be on their own. They don't want to, they don't want the whole world to know what they are doing. But if you are looking for an opportunity, and the only way you can get that opportunity is for you to blow your trumpet, and the only way you can blow your trumpet is to talk about what you're doing on social media, right? There was this Filipino guy in the US that was taking care of his grandmother as a caregiver. I don't know his name, but I watched him. I saw his Instagram page, and then I watched one podcast he did on YouTube, and that was how I got to understand the dynamics of what he was doing. He was actually taking care of his grandmother. He was his grandmother's caregiver and taking care of her until she passed away. But he was documenting everything that he was doing for her. Like, if he feeds her, he will show. I know that caregiving, you don't have to show the, like, you sign a non-disclosure agreement. You sign a lot of agreements that you can't publish the people they are providing care for, right? You don't take pictures of them. You don't video them and all of that. Depends on the agreement you have with the individual or with the company. But it doesn't stop you from talking. When I mean talking, it doesn't stop you from talking about what you do. You can talk about it. You don't need to show anybody's face. You can just put your picture there and talk about what you do. Like right now, I'm talking to you about caregiver. I'm not showing anybody's face, right? So you can talk about it. By the time you build your authority about this industry on social media, you are attracting the people to you. You are not the one looking for them this time around. You are the one talking about the job. You are talking about all the things you have done on the job. You're talking about your expertise, your skills, your experiences, and all of that. You are attracting the employers to you. It is the employers that will now notice you and start looking for you to give you opportunity. So that's another way of actually putting yourself out there. If you go to the Filipinos social media page or social media, you will see a lot of them. They talk about their jobs. They don't show what they do. They talk about it, right? So we Africans, we should adapt this method of talking about what we do on social media. Not just going to people's page and laughing and gossiping and all of that. It's not benefiting us. Let's start talking about what we do. If we are good in caregiving, right, we should start talking about it. Start talking about it and build on your authority there. That way you will start attracting the employers. The same employers that you think will not look at you if you talk to them. By the time they go through your social media page from beginning to end, they see that this person is well grounded in caregiving. They will give you the offer. You don't need to go and start looking for reference and all of that, because they've already seen what you're talking about. They've already, like, you've built a portfolio of what you do on your social media platform. So that's what I can say in terms of you building something for yourself so that you can get into this industry. Okay, so yeah, so my brother, my special brother says, go and talk to your close friends and family associates in Canada as PR and citizens. It takes a lot of intentionality. You must also be willing to live in remote areas in Canada, not just Alberta, Ontario, and British Columbia. And that's true, yes. It takes a lot of intentionality. So if, in addition to what he said, if you look at the Canadian map, on the Canadian map, you have the areas that has lots of population, and you have communities that are maybe 2,000, 3,000 people, 4,000 people. Those places, they are always looking for people. They are always looking for people. So if you go there, check for home care groups or home care organizations in such communities that are maybe 3,000 people or 4,000 people or 5,000 people, and connect with those people on Facebook. Search for their communities, connect to them on Facebook, talk to them, and yes, they can hire you. I saw one documentary where one Filipino lady was hired from the Philippines to go and work in Yukon, one small remote location in Yukon. Yukon is one of the territories in Canada. She was hired to go and work there in Yukon, Nunavut, Northwest Territories, those places that people don't want to go to. Check for opportunities in those places, and you'll be surprised at what you will see. There are a lot of opportunities there. So yeah, I also want to mention this. He said, be careful, there are scammers. Yes, there are scammers, but like I said, most of the home care groups, they have their pages on Facebook. So if they are on Facebook, you cannot, there's no way you'll be dealing with scammers on Facebook. Just like I have my own page on Facebook, they have their page on Facebook, and you will see their website on their Facebook page. That's where you know it's authentic, because they can't clone it, right? So for you to know who is a scammer, if they start asking you for money, of course you know that it's a scammer. Most Canadian employers will not ask you for money. They will not ask you to bring money for them to give you a job offer. Their own is, how soon can you start the work? I even forgot to mention this. Another issue that those of us from Africa are having is how fast the visa processing is. Unfortunately, work permits, visiting visa applications, well, visiting visa, I can say it varies, but work permit applications is taking so much time to get approval, unfortunately. So most of these people, they find it difficult to wait. That's one of the challenges they are having. You know, they will ask, how fast can you get your visa approved? And if you don't know the processing time, if your processing time is like maybe 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 1 year, they will drag their feet, because they feel that if they need you to come immediately, not them wanting to wait for another 10 months before you get your visa for you to come in and start working. So that's one major issue around why a lot of people are not able to actually land these jobs. The visa processing time is an issue. Sadly, it is very, very bad for those of us who are from Africa, but for other countries, they don't have this issue of visa processing time. Okay, so now I'll start answering your questions. I'll start answering your questions. So first question: can a 6 months program in healthcare assistant here in Nigeria fly with this caregiver route? Yes, it will. A 6 months program. Is it 6 months program or 6 months work experience? Is it the 6 months program? Is it giving you a qualification so that I know what to say? If it's giving you a qualification, yes. If it's a work experience, yes, it can fly. Okay, then my special brother said our people should please learn how to code things. People, they run things for people, but our people sabi cast themselves too much. Okay, so yes, so we should learn how to code things. It's true. We should learn how to code things, but you know, how do we code things when our people are not even coming out to say to give updates? You get, you know, how do we code it when people are not coming out to give updates? The Filipinos were able to build a name for them, and I'm going to say this, let's be realistic. Our people, we don't have the kind of resilience that these guys have. We think we are resilient too, but if we look at it, by the time you live with these people, you will know how resilient they are. And their nation is very poor. You know, their country is a very, very poor country. And they've been able to build so much resilience within themselves, such that I'm not saying that they are all good or all fantastic. No, they still have bad eggs among them, right? Like every other country, everybody has the good sides and the bad sides. But they've been able to build resilience in such a way that they don't complain. You know, if you give them A, they can do A, B, C, D to Z for you and be asking for more. That's the very, very good ones. And when such person builds a reputation like that, the employer will be willing to ask them to refer more people like that, kind of people that have that kind of attitude and traits towards work, you know, for more opportunities. That's why they were able to build resilience. But in our own case, when you give our people opportunity, they will come with excuse, or will drag their legs, or will do this, or will do that, or will do that, and all of that. And then at the end of the day, it's difficult for the employer to ask for referrals. But our people have been able to build a name. Some of our people have been able to build a name for themselves, and they've gotten the confidence of the employers that can even tell them, please, I need somebody like you. Can you refer somebody else like me? You know, we are getting there. I'm not saying that we are not trying. We are getting there. By God's grace, we will get there. But then, please, if you have an opportunity like this, please do not just dump it or run away from it. It's an opportunity to, you know, build a name for yourself and be able to get that confidence that will make the employer say, you know what, I need more people from you. I need more people like you to come and work in this organization. Okay, so I'll move on to the, yeah, so it can fly. Yeah. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. How can I prove my employment if I only took care of my nephews but was not paid? So you took care of your nephews. That's a volunteer work as far as I'm concerned. Volunteer work is not a work experience, sadly. And that's what a lot of people, that's the experience a lot of people have. A lot of people have volunteer work experience, not paid experience. So if you have volunteer work experience where you took care of your nephew, you took care of a sick grandma, you took care of a sick grandpa, you took care of a sick dad or uncle and all of that, and you were not paid, it's volunteer. If you have that kind of experience, you cannot fly for this caregiver pathway, sadly. You need a paid work experience, paid one. So you have to, I don't know if you will still be able to make it for this year, but from what I'm saying, you should be able to start preparing yourself towards next year. That is, if next year caregiver pathway will still open. It will open anyway, but if you are not able to meet the conditions of this year, you start packaging yourself properly for next year. Okay. Can a relative employ you via this caregiver route? Yes, I've said it before. I've said it in, I don't know, I think this is the third time I'm doing a live concerning this pathway. Relatives can hire you. If you have a relative in Canada that has children that needs support, they can hire you. If you have a relative in Canada that has medical issues that needs support, they can hire you. So your relatives, your cousins, your friends, everybody can hire you. But the sad part is there are a lot of people who are looking for this pathway, and everybody in Canada who has a relative outside Canada is looking for a way to help their own relative. So if you have one relative that has not seen anybody to help, please hold that relative tight and convince convince the person. But like I said, the relative must meet a minimum income threshold, and the family size is also a determining factor. The income of the family and the family size is a determining factor. The income of the family in the sense that if the family is a family of four, let's say four, and the total income of the family is about $100,000, and the family is living in Ontario, automatically you will know that it will not fly because Ontario is expensive. Let's say the person is living in Toronto. Toronto is expensive, and the money they have will not be enough for them to pay you salary. The main issue around this pathway is because some people were abusing it. They will hire people to come into Canada and not pay them salaries. That's the main abuse around this particular pathway, which the government is trying to curb. And that's why I believe, in my own opinion, that they introduced this PR on arrival, so that if you come and the employer at the end of the day says, I'm sorry, I cannot pay you $15 per hour, I can only pay you $5 per hour, you can leave the employer and go and look for another person and work, right? But a lot of other of my colleagues, fellow consultants and immigration lawyers, they are saying that this PR on arrival thing is not good, because at the end of the day, not everybody who wants to come into Canada as a caregiver might end up working as a caregiver. It's just an opportunity for them to get PR, and then they'll go and start doing something else. But it's nobody's business anyway, because I mean, if the government is saying they want to do PR on arrival, who are we? We can only talk. That is what they are saying, not me. I didn't say that. Okay, so that being said, yeah, relative can hire you. What kind of qualifications do we need for caregiver jobs? What courses do we need to take? So it depends, like the type of caregiver jobs that are available. You have child caregiver, you have elderly caregiver, you have support worker for people with medical needs. They might not be elderly, but they might be people with medical needs. So that's support, right? So if it is child caregiver one that you want to face, right, you go and look for a qualification as a child caregiver. Any educational qualification online to support your work experience. If it is support work, you have to look for trainings and certifications in support work. Most nurses actually qualify for support work because it has to do with providing medical assistance and support to somebody who is medically ill. So nurses who want to work as support workers and caregivers for medical people, they qualify for this pathway. If you're a nurse, you don't need to provide any other qualification. Your nursing qualification is already acceptable. Somebody was asking me, I can't remember, the other day, that they are a pharmacist and if they can work as a caregiver. I think I told the person, if the person has experience working as a caregiver, fine, yes, you can work as a caregiver. I don't know for doctors. Doctors, if you are a doctor and you want to work as, it's a low job, but if it is the pathway that can give you PR, right? I would say you should also look at it as well. But nurses, you don't need any certification again. Doctors, you don't need any certification again. Like anybody who has done anything in the healthcare field, like maybe medical lab, no, not medical lab. I wanted to say medical laboratory technician. I don't think that occupation qualifies, but I mean, you have to still get another form of support kind of certificate to add to your work experience. Okay. Because they might ask for pay stubs and account statement to prove salary. Yes, they will ask for, yes, it is part of the documents that you will have to submit for the PR application. Your pay slips and your account statements to prove salary is a required document for permanent residence application, right? Since it's a PR on arrival program, you need to prepare your documents to make sure that they meet the requirements for PR application. In fact, probably I will do a webinar for this. Maybe a webinar. It's going to be a paid webinar. It's not going to be a free webinar. A webinar to this for those who have job offers. Because if you're paying me, it will be expensive to pay me to submit the application for you. So we will do documents that you need to provide, documents that you need to submit, how to fill out the forms and all of that, because it might be, I'm saying it might be because I don't know yet, they've not made an announcement. It might be a lottery system, right? Lottery system is first come, first serve. When they open the portal, once the 2,500 caregiver application is reached, they will just shut it down. So it will be first come, first serve. That means you have to be prepared to submit your application immediately it is open. And sometimes the system crashes. I think 2 years ago, the system crashed twice when people were trying to submit their application. So you have to be prepared, right? So yeah, you show proof of your pay stubs, proof of your statement, account statement, showing salary payment. So if you've done volunteer work and you don't have that, sorry. And somebody asked me, I received cash as salary when I was working as a caregiver. Let me tell you the truth. RCC does not believe that story of cash anymore. That story of I was being paid cash when I was working for Mr. Lagbaja, IRCC is not believing it. So whatever kind of PR application you're submitting, please take it from me. Try as much as possible to avoid the situation where you're saying that you were paid in cash. There is a lot of refusals going on right now, a lot of permanent residence application refusals going on right now. And you don't want to, how will I put it now? Make mistakes with your PR application. So if you were paid in cash, do you have evidence of the cash payment? Did you sign any document? Was there any, because I mean, nobody, if they give you cash, did you take it to the bank and put cash, this is my salary for June? Did you do that, or you just left the cash in your house? And if you were paid cash, how much cash were you paid? I know that most caregivers in Nigeria, they receive their salaries by cash. Even most employees receive their salaries by cash. But you have to be careful, with this cash narration. You have to be very careful with cash narration, because RCC sees it as being suspicious that there's a possibility that you didn't really get paid, right? And then you're now saying you were paid cash. So please be careful. Okay. I volunteer in a hospital and care home for the elderly. Do I qualify? Volunteer, I've said it before, volunteer experience does not count. It has to be a paid employment. Can I use my diploma in early care certification from? Yes, you can. Early care certification, yes, you can. Diploma, yes, you can. Can a nurse get this job, or she must do another? No. A nurse can get this job. Like I said earlier, if you're a nurse, you don't need any other qualification. Your nursing qualification is fine. All you need to do is evaluate your nurse credential. That's it. Okay. 6 months program in healthcare assistant with 3 weeks internship at a hospital and graduated with a diploma in healthcare assistant equivalent to MVQ level 3 in health and social care. Yes, you qualify. This qualification qualifies you, but the work experience part, do you have the work experience? If you have the certificate, fine. But if you don't have the work experience, how do you prove the work experience? Right? So you need, in addition to the certification, you need the work experience as well. And it has to be a 6 months work experience. Internship will not fly. Real work experience where your paid salaries is what will count. Yes, I think I've answered this question. Is there any need to prove fund? Yes, you will show proof of funds. PR applications, you have to show proof of funds. For all PR applications, you must show proof of funds, except Canadian experience class and spousal sponsorships and refugee claimants and asylum seekers and all of that. Those are the people that don't show proof of funds. But every other immigration program, you must show proof of funds. Okay, share the employer's community website for RCIP and FCIP. Okay, so let me mention this. RCIP, FCIP, they are still updating their website. The website I was able to collate is still based on the old one. So it didn't make any sense for me to be publishing old websites. And if you go to their website, you will see it on their website. They'll say, we are still, what do you call it now? We are still putting our website in order, or we are in the process of, you will get an update kind of. That's what is stated on each website. All the websites I checked, none of them have updated their details or concerning RCIP. They just said, we've been approved for RCIP. We will update our website shortly, blah, blah, blah. So if I put the old website, you will not see any information concerning jobs, right? Because they are still updating. By the time they complete the update, then I'll be able to share those details. Except you want me to share old one, which does not make any sense sharing an old website where you will not get any information. Okay. Again, volunteer experience does not count. Sadly, volunteer experience does not count. It has to be a real work experience where they are paying you salaries. Volunteer experience for permanent residence application does not count. Volunteer experience for permanent residence application does not count. Okay. Okay, I read about the child caregiver on IRCC that work experience must not be in the daycare or school environment. Please, what does this mean? Can one qualify as a nursery teacher or TA? Yes, you qualify as a nursery teacher or TA. It doesn't have to be in, okay, so let me explain this. It doesn't have to be in a daycare or crèche or whatever. If you're providing care to a child for the child caregiver pathway, if you're providing care to a child and you have an agreement with the parents that you want to provide care for the child, you want to teach the child, and you people sign an agreement and they are paying you salaries, right? You can use that experience. The proof for you to show that you actually worked as a child caregiver is salary payment in your bank, into your bank account, and an agreement. There must be a document. Do you have agreements with people verbally and you start working without any document in place? Right? If you don't have any document in place to show that you have an agreement with somebody, that means the person can do whatever they like and you cannot hold the person. So verbal agreements will not fly. You have to have a document to show that you have an agreement with somebody and you're providing childcare for that person, and the person is paying you salaries into their account. This is why I said people who claim that they have work experience as child caregivers and are being paid cash, it will be difficult because, yes, most families do pay cash to child caregivers. Most families do pay cash to child caregivers. But for IRCC, they want things done properly. They want things done properly, and that's why evidence of salary payment into your bank account is a good evidence rather than cash. Okay. Can a lab technician apply? If you have the work experience and you have the certificate to support it, yes. Pharmacists, I've said it before, if you have the work experience as a caregiver, if you've worked as a caregiver, let's say you're a pharmacist in the UK, or I'm not saying pharmacist in the UK, sorry, because I know pharmacists in the UK, you're working as a pharmacist. Let's say you go to the UK, you've not gotten your license to start working as a pharmacist, and you worked as a caregiver for 6 months. you are eligible to apply under this pathway if you get a job offer. The key thing is getting the job offer. Okay, what if you have an experience as a childminder to a 10-year-old whose mother was out of town for a year? Child is living with carer and the carer is paid at the end of the 1 year service. If the child is living with the carer and the carer will be paid at the end of the 1 year service, that will look suspicious to IRCC. You know why? So which money is the carer using to take care of the child? Is the carer doing another job to get funds to buy the needs of the child? So if you sign an agreement with, if the person signed an agreement with a family member to say, okay, I want to take care of your child for 1 year, then at the end of the year I'll pay you, it sounds suspicious. It's supposed to be payment before service, not even payment after service, because such arrangements is actually suspicious. So you don't want to jeopardize your application by presenting suspicious information to IRCC. It is if you say we will pay quarterly, right? If there's an agreement to say we are paying quarterly, is understandable, but paying at the end of the year does not sound like it's a genuine agreement or a genuine arrangement. So you don't want to present such situations to IRCC. Okay. Okay, if after graduating from CNA in NL as a personal care attendant next year, can I qualify for this caregiver pathway while inside Canada? Yes, if you graduate and you have work experience, if you graduate and you're working as a caregiver, then you qualify. If you're working as a caregiver for an individual, for now, you qualify, because they've not announced the one for people working with group homes and other homes and all of that. They've not announced it yet. So if you're working for an individual, you qualify. If you sign an agreement with an individual, you qualify. In fact, that reminds me, for those who are in Canada, please adopt this, right? Adopt this. I know it's going to be difficult, but I think it's something you should adopt. So while you're working, especially those who are on work permit, while you're working for a care home as a caregiver, also look for an individual you can have an agreement with to work for as a caregiver. That way, you can use that experience to qualify for the caregiver pathway. I hope it makes sense. Okay. Does the UK MVQ level 3 qualify those that work in children residential home UK qualify? Yes, it does. You qualify for that. I'm an auxiliary nurse in the pediatrics. I am getting a job offer as a home child care from my auntie in Canada. Please, is that a relevant work experience as a child is medically sound? Auxiliary nurse getting a job offer as a home child care. So if the child is medically sound, your experience in pediatrics, there's no correlation. There's no correlation in your experience, well, because there's no medical issue with the child. But if I'm just, except it with a support worker, then I would have said yes. But child caregiver. Anyway, I like, see, I'm stuck. I'm even stuck for words. I don't even know what to answer in that question. So this is what will happen. Auxiliary nurse in pediatrics. Pediatrics is more or less has to do with children, and depends on what your job description is, right? If your job description is taking care of assisting parents to take care of their children in the ward and all of that, then you qualify. But in this setting, in your own work experience setting, your work experience has to do with people that have medical issues. But in this case, the child you want to come and provide care for does not have any medical issue. I feel you qualify, though. You actually do qualify, because a child does not need to have a medical issue. As long as you have experience taking care of children, you qualify. Okay. If you have pay stubs but no longer have access to the account, so no account statement, does it fly? So if you don't have access to the account, you have to prove that you no longer have access to the account. right? Why is the bank still in existence? Is the bank no longer in existence? Has the bank been bought over by another bank? If it has been bought over by another bank, you have to go back to the bank and ask them, please, I'll need to print my statement from this bank. They have legacy systems to be able to provide proof of your transactions. So there is no way you would say you don't have access to the account. You have to go back to your bank. If the bank is one of the banks that has folded up, you have to write to Central Bank of Nigeria and the National Deposit Insurance Commission, Deposit Insurance, NDIC. If you are in a situation where you were paid salaries, I'm just talking in general now, especially those who are applying for permanent residence. If you're in a situation where you were paid salaries into your account, but for one reason or the other, the bank has folded up, you don't have access to the account anymore, you can write a letter to Central Bank of Nigeria, provide your name, provide your account number, tell them that you would like to have access to your bank statement between so period and so period from this bank. CBN will answer you. Also NDIC, that's National Deposit Insurance Commission. I believe I'm getting it right. They will also answer you as well. If they answer you and say, I'm sorry, we cannot blah, 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 then you use that evidence from CBN to support your application to say, I could not provide my bank statement because the bank is no longer in existence or the bank has folded up, and I tried to get it from CBN and this is the response from CBN. You have to show proof. You can't just tell them, I don't have access to my account. Okay. Can someone who studied business management in Canada working as a caregiver qualify? Yes, you qualify if you are working as a caregiver for an individual. The one for group homes, they've not answered us. They've not published it. They've not said the details about group homes. But for individual, yes, you qualify. Is IELTS needed for a study corp permit to study? IELTS is not needed for study permit applications. It is not needed, please. Okay. I'm currently working in a medical lab as a lab tech, HND microbiology, diploma in caregiver. My payslips in the lab is on the lab technology. Can I still apply? If your payslips is on the lab technology, well, I don't know how you will prove that, because your payslips, well, some organizations actually put the job title on payslips as well. So you have to talk to your employers to correct the information on your payslips. Talk to your employer to correct the information on your payslips. If you're actually working as a caregiver and you know that you're working as a caregiver, so talk to your employer, let them correct the information on your payslips. Work experience as a nurse for over 10 years. Yes, you can use your work experience as a nurse for over 10 years to apply for this pathway if you're able to get a job offer. Lecturer with over 20 years experience qualify? Sadly, no, because if you're a lecturer, are you a lecturer in the university or you're a lecturer in, well, lecturer word is typically used for those teaching at the post-secondary level. So because you're teaching at the post-secondary level, right, if you don't have experience teaching at the nursery level, that means you don't qualify. And your experience has to be recent experience, within the last 3 years. It has to be a recent experience. Okay. Yes, you can apply. If you have all the requirements, you can apply. Okay, so I just have 10 minutes on this session. And then I'll call it a wrap for today. Can CGFNS evaluation report work? Sorry, I don't know what CGFNS means. Please explain what CGFNS means to me. How many months of salary payment? So this pathway just requires 6 months work experience, right? So you have to show the 6 months payment, salary payment. So if you don't have this, if you've not gotten it as at February, how do you now show your 6 months work experience? If you don't have proof of salary payment into your account for the past 6 months, you're more or less telling the visa officer to just hang your application in one corner. Okay, do we need to get the agreement from the court for those working for individuals? No, you don't need an agreement. So, just like any employer can hire you, right? If any employer is hiring you, they will give you an offer of employment. Yeah. So something like that, if you're working for an individual and they are hiring you, they should give you an offer or an agreement document where both of you will sign. The person will sign, you will sign. On that document, it will state how much they will pay you, how many hours of care you're providing, and blah blah blah. You don't typically need a court document to support that. It's normal document, normal offer of employment. Nursing care will fly. Yes, it will. Okay. Do you assist people with job offers, please? No, I don't. Because it's difficult to get job offers. It's difficult to call employers. We are currently doing one right now, which has not been easy to get because of all this news going on. And even when you call the employers, they will tell you how long will it take for the person to get the visas to come in. And if you cannot provide a concrete answer, they move on to the next person. So that's the challenge we've been facing, connecting with these employers. It's not as if they are not there, they are there. But when you call them and say, oh, I have somebody that has this expertise and can fit into your organization and can work as a caregiver, would you want to talk to this person? They will say, how long, how many months are we going to wait for this person to get the visa for the person to come and start working? And realistically, when you check on the processing time on IRCC website for visa processing, you will see 176 days, you will see 6 months, you see 9 months, you see 1 year. So these things is discouraging the employers. It is not as if they are not there, they are not willing to give the jobs, but because of the processing time, it discourages the employers, especially if they need somebody urgently, if they need somebody immediately, and it's taking time for the person to get their visas, they will look for another person. So that's the challenge. That's why we don't assist with job offers. But if you were part of this session from the beginning, I talked about how to overcome the issue with job offers. And I gave examples of networking, volunteering, partnering with people who are in the industry themselves to give you the connections and all of that. Networking with recruiters on LinkedIn, going to the Facebook page of the organizations and communicating with them. If they post job opportunities on their website, go to their Facebook page and chat with them and talk to them. Calling the employers, that's another one. And then building your what do you call it now, your social media portfolio on caregiving. That way you don't need to look for them, they will be the one to look for you and find a way to bring you in. Okay. Working for an agency alone, depends. Are you in Canada or outside Canada? If you're in Canada, like I said, they've not announced the details for those working with agencies and working with companies. They've not announced the details. If you're working for an individual, fine. But if you're working for agency and companies, they've not announced the details yet. Until they announce the details before we can categorically say, yes, if you're working for an agency, you qualify. Okay, I work as a preschool teacher, and the school don't pay through bank but hand to hand, and they are ready to give me reference letter. It's difficult. It's really difficult to convince the immigration officers that in 2025, some organizations are still not paying through bank accounts, but they are paying through cash. It's difficult. If it was an individual that you have an agreement with and the person is paying you through cash, because I know that most child caregivers, most nannies, we pay cash, especially for those of us who are from Africa, we pay them cash. That's the truth. But when you're saying that a school, an organization, an established organization that has a CAC, right, a certificate of incorporation in Nigeria, is paying you cash, it's difficult to convince the visa officer. So please, I don't know how you will convince them. Probably the salary is low, that's why they want to pay through cash, but somehow you have to provide extensive proof. and the school has to sign an affidavit or write an affidavit that they pay their staff in cash and they have to provide details. But I see these things all the time, and I will tell you for a fact that most of these applications that say cash payment, they refuse them. I will tell you the truth. Most of these applications that say cash payments, they refuse the applications because they don't want to stress themselves to go and start confirming, is this true? Did this person really pay you cash? How do you show proof that the person paid you cash? And when they paid you cash, did you take the cash into your bank account and put cash payment of salary deposited by me? Did you do that? You know, or you left the money in your hand to spend? Okay. I am an international student in Canada studying ECE, but I have all the relevant qualifications and will do my studies September. Can I apply? I have a job offer for childcare already. If you have the work experience back from your home country within the last 3 years and you have an employer in Canada, yes, you can apply. But that means when you apply, you still continue your studies. There's no harm in continuing your studies. Anybody that is a student can still apply for PR. There's no stopping. If you're a student and you get a job offer as a caregiver, as long as you can show proof of your work experience, I'm not talking about volunteer experience, 6 months full-time work experience within the last 3 years, you can apply. If you are a student and you got a job offer from somebody that can give you this job, please go ahead and apply. Okay. 4 months proof of funds for a study permit? No, it's 6 months, especially if you're from Nigeria. How do I provide proof that I was paid if I was paid in cash? You will have to ask your employer to do an affidavit. I think I've answered that question. But like I said again, and I'm repeating, it's like I'm repeating this answer multiple times. If I see it, I will skip it. Again, the visa officers are weary of people saying they paid them cash. This is 2025. They are weary of people saying they paid them in cash. They want to see salary payment into bank accounts. That shows legitimacy. If you say they paid you in cash, you are indirectly telling the visa officer to be suspicious of what you are presenting to them. I'm not saying that they don't pay people in cash, but the people they pay in cash are all these people that are not lettered, right? You pick a house help from the village to come and help you in your house, to clean your house and all of that. You can pay that person in cash. But if you, who is qualified as a caregiver and must have gone through the 4 walls of a university, probably evaluated your credentials, working for an organization, maybe like a school or a crèche, and you say they paid you in cash, that is suspicious to the visa officer. So, except you want your employer to write an affidavit and provide proof of their bank statement where they are withdrawing salaries from their bank account, saying January salary to be distributed in cash. And there's a memo, kind of. I don't know how you want to convince the visa officer around that. But like I said, anything cash is suspicious and would lead to refusal of your PR application. You have to show extensive proof. Is the employer willing to provide their business bank account statement? If the employer is willing to provide business and bank account statements where they are withdrawing the cash, let's say they withdraw 1 million, how many people would they pay salaries of 1 million naira? Right? You have to show all this, a lot of documents to support your cash claim. So please be careful. If you know that you have issues in this area of cash, it's better you sit down and ask yourself, do you want to risk it and apply? Or do you just want to let it go and repackage yourself properly again for the next one? If you ask me for advice, I'll tell you it's better to prepare yourself properly. Don't risk it, because if you're risking it, you're paying PR application fees of, depends on your family size, of $1,600 that will not come back to you, except maybe the right of permanent residency fee. The processing fee will not come back to you by the time they reject your application. And they do what we call R10. R10 is completeness check. Completeness check is proof of reference, proof of work experience, salary payment, pay slips, and all of that. If they do all those checks and they now see where you are explaining that my employer paid me in cash, they'll just hang your application in one corner. So please be careful. Okay. Because there's a lot of document fraud going on, they are more strict. They are now very, very strict with the work experiences that you're claiming. They believe that if you've worked for a credible organization should be able to pay you into your bank account, and the 50 naira or 100 naira transfer fee should not be a problem. I know that most employers it's not easy for Nigerians, right, or Africans, and that's why some of them try to see how they can manage things by not paying certain fees. But at the end of the day, it is you that will have to provide proof. And if your employer is willing to provide proof of their withdrawal, the cash withdrawal from their bank statement, that's providing their own bank statement to show that they withdrew money to pay their staff cash, then you are good to go. But like I said, I'm not the visa officer. I'm just telling you based on how they assess things and how they see cash payment. Cash payment is a red flag to wear for them, especially in 2025. Okay. Yes, you qualify. You qualify if you're working as a teacher to autism kids in a special school. You qualify for this pathway. You qualify. And I also need to mention you also qualify for the express entry category-based draw for healthcare, because that tier code is under instructors of persons with disabilities. So you qualify for express entry healthcare category-based draw. You also qualify for this pathway as well. Okay. Yes, you must show proof of English language. Of course, it is a requirement, and they even reduced the score. The score is a band 4. It's a band 4, right? You must show proof of your language scores, and it's a band 4. Yes, full-time, part-time experience can be combined. Working in a care home, qualify, paid in cash. I've talked about this paid in cash plenty times. I don't know where your care home is. Your care home in Canada or your care home is in Nigeria, right? Please explain where your care home is. But you working in a care home, you already qualify. But the aspect of your documentation is where the challenge will lie. So a lot of people actually do qualify, but the aspect of documentation is a problem. Presenting your documents to IRCC is a problem, and that document is what they look out for. Okay. Currently taking care of my sister's son in Canada who is autistic on a part-time basis. Is it advisable to apply for a PGWP next year after my 1-year program to get a full-time job from her? Yes, of course. If you are taking care of your sister's son, it's advisable to apply for PGWP next year. If you are eligible for PGWP, you can go ahead and apply for PGWP. And if you get a full-time job from her, yes. But of course, the requirements of a full-time job offer. She has to register with CRA. She has to have a CRA business number, payroll number, and then she has to be paying you salaries through that payroll number. Because part of what you will show is proof of salary payment. So please avoid the situation where you say, my sister was paying me in cash. No, I've been singing this song here now. If you're working as a caregiver, please let them pay you into your bank account. Pay you salaries to your bank account. If they pay you salaries in cash, carry the cash and go and deposit in your bank account and say, salary payment from Mr. Lagbaja and Co. for January salary. Salary payment for Lagbaja and Co. February. Deposit it in the bank and put the narration there so that you can have evidence of the ABCD, and then a document where you sign with your employer that, the employer has paid me, my salary for today. Any logbook, any kind of logbook or document, something like that, receipt, invoice to show proof that they have actually paid you salary. You should have those evidence. I'm talking for people who are not in Canada, but if you are in Canada, the salary must pass through payroll. and your system must be able to deduct CPP and EI and remit payroll to CRA for you to show evidence that you have the work experience for you to qualify for this pathway. Okay. Tax remittance as a caregiver in Nigeria. No, of course. So this caregiver pathway is not like the typical express entry skilled worker pathway where sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the employer, IRCC will request for tax IDs or tax certificates, right? For the federal skilled worker, if you're in this group now and you're under the federal skilled worker stream, just know that any work experience you claim as part of your work history, IRCC is now asking for tax certificates to prove that you actually are working for that employer. I have seen somebody's application that was refused. It was after it was refused, the person came to me. Most times they don't, that's one sad part. Most times investing just $150 on consultation is difficult. It is when the application is refused, they now start spending $10,000 to reverse it, where it will not even be reversed. So please don't joke with these things. And I feel sad for this kind of group of people that find it difficult to just invest $150 to get clarity on certain things before submitting an application. And then when it is refused, you now come back and you will not want to start spending $10,000 to lawyer. I'm a consultant, but immigration lawyers, if they want to take the case to court before you go to judicial review, some of them will tell you $5,000 just to write the letter for judicial review. And if it's going to go to court, it is how long the case is in court. They will start charging you by that. It can take as much as $20,000. So why go through all that stress where you can just invest simple $150 or $200 consultation and clarify some of these gray areas? So the person I'm talking about, the person actually did work for his father. His name is on the company documents of the father, right? And he submitted his application for permanent residence. I'm not talking about caregiver pathway now. I'm talking about another pathway. I just wanted to give this example. He submitted his application for permanent residence using that work experience as part of his work experience. IRCC sent him a procedural fairness letter to provide certain documents, including tax clearance certificates. Unfortunately, he could not provide tax clearance certificate for that particular occupation. And because of that, IRCC refused the application. So you see the issue with claiming some work experiences where you say cash. When IRCC wants to get you, they know how to get you. If you say you're working for a company, you started working for the company since 1995 until 2024, IRCC will even tell you to go and bring your 1995 bank statement to show salary payments. So please be careful. I am doing these things because you guys are my people, and I feel that you guys should be aware of what is actually going on. I know a lot of you can do the applications yourself, but there are some things you don't joke with, especially things that have one or two gray areas. If you know your application has gray areas, it's not hard to seek consultation to get it clarified and know that you're doing the right thing before you submit your application. Especially for permanent residence application. If it is work permit, study permit, you can always, correct those things. But PR applications, please don't joke with them. Okay. I've been talking too much. I just have 9 more minutes and then I'll call it a day for today. Yay, my person. See that? Let's talk in camera after this session, please. Okay. Does 6 months internship count? No, I've said it. Internship does not count. Volunteer experience does not count. It must be work experience, not internship, please. Should I prepare my CV from the time I started working as a caregiver? Yes. Yes, you should. Express entry documents for working experience. Who is a contractor? How can you prove? Contractor, did you register yourself as a self-employed person? If you didn't register yourself as a self-employed person, you have to go and register yourself. because you can't be doing contract. I know there are freelancers, right? Freelancing opportunities there. Contract, even freelancing, they call them self-employed. So you have to like have some form of registration. That's business. You must have registered yourself. If it's a business name, if it is a corporation partnership kind of, you just register yourself. And for you to have a contract with somebody, you should show proof of the contractual documents, right? Show proof of the contractual documents that you have with the person. Okay. Oh, welcome to our New Brunswick. You guys, I will gist you. New Brunswick played me while you. I've been calling Manisnoba. Now, see the heap of snow in front of my house in New Brunswick. New Brunswick has plenty snow too. Anyway, that's by the way. Let me not deviate. Need to pay tax for those working for individuals. No, so for individuals, if you're working for individuals, there are certain tax requirements based on the location. If it's in Nigeria, you have to go to the I won't say FIRS. You have the local government tax offices. If you go there and ask them that you are working for an individual, what kind of tax document can you show? They will be able to tell you what kind of tax document that will be needed, or what kind of tax payment or tax whatever you can show as proof of tax. So you have the FIRS, which is at the federal level. You also have the if I'm using Lagos as an example, you have the LIRS, Lagos Internal Revenue Service. And then at the local government also, there should be a tax office at the local government level. So for those working as individuals, you have to go to those local government offices and ask them what kind of tax certificate you can get or tax document you can get. So I'll give an example. For those who are market women, those working in the market and selling in the market, they also pay their taxes, right? All those levies and all of that they pay, that they give them some receipts and all of that. Those are taxes that the government is taxing them. There is nobody that is not paying tax in Nigeria, especially those who are selling in market and have stores and all of that. They pay some form of taxes. So individuals as well, I believe they fall into this category of people where you can go and meet the local government guys and say, please, I work as an individual. What kind of tax obligation am I supposed to show if I want to show proof of tax payment, right? So if an individual is hiring somebody, the money is small though, because minimum wage is 70,000 naira. Like, how many employers are actually paying the real minimum wage itself? Not to talk of even deduct taxes. Most employers don't even deduct taxes. But for the purpose of this immigration pathway, you have to do things right. You have to do things correctly for the purpose of immigration. I know that it might be expensive, but there is no harm in asking. If you ask and they say it's going to cost you A, B, C, D, E, then you have to think about whether you should go ahead and get tax documents or not. But the key thing is avoiding cash payments. That's the key thing. If you don't want to show tax, fine. The tax document I'm talking about is for people coming under the federal skilled worker, express entry, category-based draw, provincial nomination. If you show proof of work experience in an organization, you should be able to show your tax clearance certificate. If you don't have that, start working on it now. Try to see how you can get it. Talk to your employers. The employers that hire you, tell them that you want your tax clearance, tax documents handy. Okay, so let me answer this last question. Can I combine accounts for proof of funds? If I have 4 months and my brother based abroad has a longer month to combine with my application for study permit. So you're talking about study permit. Anyway, more smiles. You want me to answer all your questions in this session? Okay, so yes, you can combine proof of funds. Your brother can be your sponsor for your study permit application, as in co-supporter, not really sponsor, co-supporter for your study permit application. Your brother can support your application, but the way you present it to IRCC is a huge factor. A lot of people don't know how to present. That's one thing I know. a lot of people don't know how to present documents to IRCC, and that's why there are a lot of refusals. The visa officers, they don't have the luxury of time to be looking for document A, document B, document C. It is your responsibility as an applicant to present your document to IRCC in such a way that if they see it, they understand what you're doing and they understand what you're trying to achieve. So if your brother is going to support you with proof of funds, you have to think of how you can present that information to IRCC. And another thing you should also consider is your brother married? Does your brother have children? One thing the IRCC visa officers are looking out for is the person supporting you with funds. Do they have their own family responsibilities? If they have their own family responsibilities, they will calculate how much the person can support you. If the person has a family of 4 and is showing maybe proof of funds of $50,000, is the person showing proof of source of income, proof of pay slips where the person is working to show that, oh, I have enough money, oh, I can sponsor my sister or I can support her, I have enough money. But if your brother is just showing only bank statement, that's not enough, right? That's not enough. Okay, so that brings me to the end of today's session. I've been talking for the past 1 hour and 20 something minutes. I feel that I think I've addressed a lot of issues, especially with the issue of getting jobs. Like I said, it's not easy to get a job, and you have to do the work of getting the job in terms of networking, in terms of volunteering, in terms of partnering with people who are in the industry, in terms of meeting recruiters. Recruiters are on LinkedIn. Most of these recruiters who are recruiting for people, they're on LinkedIn. And then I even forgot to mention, attending virtual job fairs is one pathway. I forgot to mention it. I totally forgot to mention it. So please, attending virtual job fairs. Virtual job fairs. You don't need to leave your house. You just have to attend virtual job fairs. If you attend virtual job fairs, it's a way of networking and partnering or volunteer, seeing opportunity to see an employer that can hire you. If you attend virtual job fairs, and there are lots of virtual job fairs going on in Canada right now, there's nothing stopping you from attending or registering for virtual job fairs. Newfoundland and Labrador, they organized one virtual job fair at the beginning of this year, sometime in January. I even talked about, did I talk about it? I don't think so. But I know that they did a virtual job fair. Apart from Newfoundland and Labrador, there are so many organizations that come together to organize virtual job fairs. So if you're looking for opportunity in this area, most of the home care providers, they also organize virtual job fairs to look for caregivers. So that's another opportunity for you to pitch yourself and get a job offer from them. You know, apart from talking to people in Canada that will have 1 or 2 persons, connections and all of that, you also need to build your social media handle in such a way that you are doing this job so that they can see you and they will be attracted to you. Okay, so I think I've answered enough questions, and the next webinar that I will do will be what to. It will be a paid webinar, not a free one, because that one, it will be more like 4 hours. It's going to be a 4 to 5 hour session where I will show everybody what documents are needed from both the employer side and the employee side. What documents are needed, how to answer the questions on the application forms, and how to prepare yourself to apply. Because if we are looking at how the application was done the last time, it's a lottery system. So first come, first serve. And how you need to organize yourself so that you can be among the first set of people to submit your application, so that you don't get you're not slow in the whole process and then you don't meet up with the time. So it's for those who have gotten job offers. If you have not gotten job offers, please don't bother for that. I will make the announcements. If you've gotten job offer as a caregiver and you want to apply, you don't know the documents you need to submit, you don't know what forms you need to fill, you don't know what details your employer needs to provide, you don't know how to calculate if your employer actually meets the income requirement and the threshold, you don't know these things, please endeavor to attend. If you have people that also, if you know people that have job offers, please also tell them that I'll be organizing a webinar. It's going to be a paid webinar, and it's going to be a 4-5 hour session. We will dissect the documents one by one. I will tell you how you should organize yourself, set your computer, sit down that day, waiting for RSCC to open. As you just open the website, bah, your own is just bah, 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 and you submit, and you go and sleep, and you smile to yourself that you've done a good job. That's what I want you to do. Because, I mean, that day, immigration lawyers will be up, consultants will be up, a lot of people will be up all over the world just to take advantage of that opportunity, because the slots is just few, maybe 2,000, 2,500 slots thereabouts, right? So a lot of people will be up. So you need to have everything ready, like everything set, ready, go. So we need to be like, you need to be ready. So it's for people who have gotten job offers. And if you have promise of getting it, if somebody has promised you that they'll give you a job offer, please also endeavor to attend the session. It's going to be a 4 to 5 hour session where we'll look at everything from A to Z, what IRCC is looking for, to make sure that your application is complete. Like I said, they do what we call R10 check, completeness check. By the time they do the completeness check, they'll give you go ahead, good pass, go ahead. We'll wait for you, we'll give you your PR. So you don't want to make mistakes on your application and then start coming back to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I would have done this. I just want you to be part of this session, and you do it and do it right and get it once and for all. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on this session. I hope I did due diligence on this session. If there are virtual job fairs that I know of, I'll be publishing them on my website, so that on the community tab, so that you can have them and you can attend those sessions and use those opportunities to network with employers to get job offers. There are lots of virtual job fairs going on. And then if you have a Google email, this is also another last tip. If you have a Google email, Gmail, there's what we call Google Alerts. Google Alert, you can set up your Google Alert to be giving you alert of job opportunities under Caregiver. I set up my Google Alerts for something else. So every 24 hours, I receive alerts on articles. You can also set alert for job opportunities. So once you just put Google Alerts and then set the alert for what you want. If there's any new job opportunity around Caregiver pathway, you will see the alerts. That way you apply. That's another option. But for virtual job fairs, anyone that I know that is not in the public, I will publish it on my community tab. Care homes as well that are hiring from outside Canada, I'll publish them on my community tab, all of them, so that you can take advantage of them. All right, please pray for me, because I have a lot on my neck. Seriously, I have a lot. I have a lot on my neck. Please bear with me. So if you send me email and I don't respond on time, please bear with me, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Okay, thank you so much for joining me this session, and let's pray that it will be fruitful by the time they open it. The people that want to take advantage of this pathway, your application will be successful. Amen. Because even me too, I want to use it to help somebody. I want to use it to help somebody, even me too. So I'll be just like you. I'll be waiting that day for that day to open, for the website to open for us to apply. All right. Thank you so much, and have a good evening and a beautiful week. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.